As the rockets rained down, there were moments of panic. A barrage of 7 ballistic missiles were intercepted by Saudi Arabia's air defense. Multiple social media users posted videos of the US Patriot missile defense system used by the Saudi military.
The objective is to continue to look for these kind of missiles, to target it, destroy it. We believe that we destroy most of these capabilities.
We'll use long-range drones, which have excellent military capabilities. We will activate the military institutions in an unprecedented way and open up more opportunities to recruit the children and men of our people to fight.
Fox News confirming the U.S. has given notice to 60 Russian diplomats at the embassy and the UN, and they have 1 week to pack up and leave the country. Administration also ordering the closure of the Russian consulate in Seattle, Washington.
It is part of a pattern of increasingly aggressive Russian behavior, but also represents a new and dangerous phase in Russia's hostile activity against Europe and our shared values and interests.
Last week, the European Union sided with Britain in blaming Russia for the poisoning of a former Russian spy, Sergei Skripal. Now European Council President Donald Tusk says 14 EU states are asking Russian diplomats to leave.
The Russians who will be leaving include 48 members from the Russian embassy and 12 from the United Nations.
These actions make the United States safer by reducing Russia's ability to spy on Americans and to conduct covert operations that threaten America's national security. With these steps, the United States, our allies and partners make clear to Russia that its actions have consequences.
Part of this, the State Department says in a statement, quote, "We take these actions to demonstrate our unbreakable solidarity with the United Kingdom and to impose serious consequences on Russia for its continued violations of international norms."
And in my discussions with President Macron and Chancellor Merkel, as well as other leaders, we agreed on the importance of sending a strong European message in response to Russia's actions, not just out of solidarity with the UK, but recognising the threat posed to the national security of all EU countries.
And it is very clear that this is an attempt to show solidarity with the UK, that there is a coordinated effort by nations here to say to Russia, enough is enough. But it is also partly about concern about what is happening inside America. Some spying and covert intelligence gathering that is taking place now. In recent weeks, there have, for example, been talk about just the cyber attacks that have taken place inside America, which have been blamed on Moscow. Those are cyber attacks that have specifically targeted American infrastructure, for example, power supplies, and that has concerned here.
Well, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, saying they would follow the principle of reciprocity. Well, obviously, that's diplomatic language for we'll kick pretty much as many out as you throw out of your countries. Now, of course, we've seen that happen when approximately 23 British diplomats were kicked out after the same thing happened in London.
The Trump administration came in, like other administrations, wanting to work or an attempt to work with Russia. They've done so a little bit in Syria and in other places, but for the most part, administration officials and State Department officials are saying that they've essentially reached the end of the rope here when it comes to Russia.
They wouldn't speculate on what Russia's response would be, but they did say that they would hold the ability to respond further and punish Russia again if Russia retaliates.
And this is something that Russia has been doing. And this is something that we think that Russia has done. This should not be tolerated. This is not something that civil nations do. And so I think it's an entirely appropriate response and done in solidarity with our great allies in Great Britain. That's why something like this should not be tolerated. Poisoning and killing people, especially with a nerve agent like this, poisoning and killing people on the soil of other countries is something that civil nations do not do, should not do, and that's why it should not be tolerated.
Today, 18 countries have announced their intention to expel more than 100 Russian intelligence officers from their countries. This includes 15 EU member states, as well as the United States, Canada, and the Ukraine. And this is the largest collective expulsion of Russian intelligence officers in history.